I'm Emily.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm Sammy.
We took some time to research the social issue of if Wi-Fi should be offered as a public utility.
We interviewed 4 experts in the Mount Pleasant area and at Central Michigan University.
Today we're going to share with you some of our favorite takeaways from our interviews.
First, we interviewed Mark Stranskopf, who is the Associate Director of Network in the Office of Information of Technology at CMU. We also talked to Josh Simon, who is the Manager of Infrastructure Administrative Services and Support at CMU.
Next, we interviewed Darcy Wilson. She is the Director of the Project Management Office of Information of Technology at CMU.
And finally, we talked to Jeremy Sheets, who is the President and owner of CMS Internet in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. We hope these videos provide you with a deeper look into this social issue.
You know, the internet has grown and expanded and become this amazing service in part due to the very little regulations that it has had. So the free market has allowed companies like mine and many others to come up with solutions and sometimes creative solutions, as well as, you know, set our own price based on what the market rate is. And it's done very well without regulation. So, you know, it's hard to say, you know, you get different regimes in power and they have different opinions and views on things. But if you look at the history of the internet in the fact that it's gotten to where it is today without regulation, I think the argument could be made that it really is something that the government shouldn't touch.
I think like we talked about cost, right?
Yeah.
And then just infrastructure. I mean, think about when we had to get electricity everywhere. You had to start in the big cities, you know, and then it took a long time to have the infrastructure out into, you know, those out in the country because it's very expensive. I'm hopeful though with satellite technology that we'll be able to take advantage, but you still have to have towers, right? You have to have towers in certain locations. Now we're coming out with 5G, right? So, I mean, obviously technology is getting smarter and smarter. I think that it's getting to be more and more possible, but I think the cost is going to be the biggest holdback there.
I mean, there's 2 parts of the question there and that's what I'm trying to get at is one is Wi-Fi in general. Do you want to have that ubiquitous everywhere? I don't think you're going to get it everywhere, in part because of the technology and the frequency space that it uses and so on. There's too many technological challenges if you wanted to have it covered like you do LTE with your cell phones and such. They operate at a lower frequency and therefore you can get more tree penetration and that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, in areas that it makes sense, where there's enough population density to warrant the investment, there's usually companies already providing the service, if not multiple companies. I mean, here in Mount Pleasant, for example, there's probably 4 to 5 different fiber providers, plus Charter, plus Frontier. I mean, there's all kinds of competition already. So, you know, I don't know where the need, if you're going to spend public resources on something, I would think it would be better spent on something else that we really need versus something that there's already plenty of options.
I think like we talked about cost, right? And then just infrastructure. I mean, think about when we had to get electricity everywhere. You had to start in the big cities, you know, and then it took a long time to have the infrastructure out into, you know, those out in the country because it's very expensive. I'm hopeful though with satellite technology that we'll be able to take advantage, but you still have to have towers, right? You have to have towers in certain locations. Now we're coming out with 5G, right? So, I mean, obviously technology is getting smarter and smarter. I think that it's getting to be more and more possible, but I think the cost is going to be the biggest holdback there.
Why don't we just go ahead and do high-speed rural broadband using this low-speed or low-frequency technology? Well, the problem is you can't get a lot of data on that lower frequency. You need the higher frequencies in order to be able to do that. So yes, you can get the distance, yes, you can get over trees or through trees, around trees and all that kind of stuff, get the good penetration, but then your bandwidth is small. Is that sufficient? No. You look at the others where you go, here's a high frequency space, you get really good bandwidth, but you don't get penetrations through that wall.
Once again, anytime that you have a government monopoly that comes in and kind of takes over things, you know, the innovation, the pricing, the value to the customer kind of goes away. You know, occasionally there might be a one-off town, Blanchard, Michigan, another small town. We just actually built fiber out there because the only other offering they had in that town was DSL through their local phone company. And a lot of the customers were, you know, unhappy with both the price and the speed. So we saw an opportunity, made the investment, went in, buried fiber lines everywhere, and it's been a good investment for us. But you know, again, that wouldn't exist if the town of Blanchard themselves decided that they wanted to do internet.
I think treating broadband or internet as a public utility, as you touched on, is going to, one, impede innovation. And as fast as we're adopting broadband and internet, we can't afford to not have innovation in that space. I think that the problem is really the last mile, right? That last mile is the most difficult to get coverage, broadband, internet, wireless, whatever it is, to those particular areas. And I don't think regulation is going to solve that problem, nor is it going to magically create the capital that it's going to take.
After reviewing our experts' information, they have all experienced situations this past year where they had to exercise adaptive leadership.
With a rapid increase in demand for internet with the pandemic, their jobs changed dramatically.
All experts showed adaptive leadership by helping others through mobilization, motivation, organizing, orienting, and focusing their attention on what was important through the increasing demand of internet when the pandemic hit.
All three of our experts shared with us their viewpoints on whether or not Wi-Fi should be offered as a public utility.
They provided us with information that had never crossed our minds before researching this topic.
We now see that offering Wi-Fi as a public utility is highly unlikely because it's too costly, not worth the upkeep, and it is not a high priority since most households already have internet.
Thank you so much for taking the time to learn more about our social issue.